Hi folks, and welcome to this video where we're going to move on to looking at English Language Paper 2 question 1. Now this is a short question, there's only 4 marks for it. However, one thing that we sometimes see is that students rush it and therefore make silly mistakes and get the answers wrong. So we're going to talk through how to do it slowly, how to plan the answer, and how to make sure that you get 100% on this question. So the question actually has quite a lot of instructions. It starts by telling you to read again the first paragraph of source A. Now I've highlighted that because it's really important that you look at the appropriate section of the appropriate source. And then it says choose 4 statements below which are true. So we're looking for 4 true statements, and then it gives you some instructions about how to shade in the circles, which we'll look at in a little bit. So let's start by looking at the first paragraph of source A again. So there is nothing in Italy more beautiful to me than the coast road between Genoa and Spezia. On one side, sometimes far below, sometimes nearly on a level with the road and often skirted by broken rocks of many shapes, there is the free blue sea, with here and there a picturesque felucca gliding slowly on. On the other side are lofty hills, ravines besprinkled with white cottages, patches of dark olive woods, country churches with their light open towers and country houses gaily painted. On every bank and knoll by the wayside, the wild cactus and aloe flourish in exuberant profusion. And the gardens of the bright villages along the road are seen, all blushing in the summertime with clusters of the belladonna, and are fragrant in the autumn and winter with golden oranges and lemons. Okay, so make sure that you take your time to read the text, focus on what you do understand, and don't get hung up if there's words there that you don't know. So we've got the text on the screen and I've put the question here as well. Now what we need to think about is planning our answer on the left-hand side of the question before we start colouring in the circles on the right-hand side. So the first statement is that Dickens enjoys driving down the coast road. And we can see here in the first sentence, there is nothing in Italy more beautiful to me than the coast road. Now, does that suggest that he's enjoying driving? It does indeed. So I'm going to put a T on the left-hand side to start planning my answer. The next statement, the landscape is decaying and desolate. And you can see I've highlighted, there's a big description of the number of plants that we have in this area. So I would say that that one is false. The landscape is flat. Well, it mentions hills, it mentions different levels of the road, so it's probably not flat, so I'm putting false there. The next statement, there are some small houses in the area. Well, it mentions cottages, so again, this is true, so I'm going to put my T to the left-hand side of my answer. The next statement, there are lots of plants growing, so not just one type of plant, but lots of different types of plants. Can you see what they are? So we have wild cactus and aloe, and it talks about gardens. So even if you don't know that aloe is a plant, you can use the context. It talks about the gardens. It talks about the plants are all blushing in the summertime with clusters. It talks about oranges and lemons. So even if you don't know what aloe is, you can figure out that yes, there are a lot of plants growing. So that is also true. The next statement, statement F, is that the gardens smell pleasant. Well, we have the word fragrant, which is about smelling pleasant. If you don't know what fragrant means, you would be able to work this one out, probably from the oranges and lemons, which you probably know have a lovely smell. So that one is true. Our penultimate statement, G, there are no fruit trees. Well, we've just talked about the oranges and the lemons, so we know that that is false. And then the final statement, Dickens is visiting Italy in the spring. Well, it mentions autumn and winter, so we know that that one is false. So I've planned all my answer down the left-hand side, and now I'm going to count to check that I've got 4 true statements. So I've got A, D, E, and F are all true. So once I've done that, I'm going to colour in the circles on the right-hand side. Make sure you stay within the lines, make sure you just shade in the circle. Now, the reason why we plan first is so that you don't jump straight in and make a mistake and colour in the wrong thing. If you do that, however, you can put a cross through it. But if you then change your mind again, it's going to be really tricky to make it look right, so the examiner can see what your actual answer is. So plan down the left-hand side and then shade in your circles on the right-hand side when you're happy that you've got 4 true answers. And make sure you don't rush this question. Take a good 3 or 4 minutes over it to get this answer right and to get these marks in the bag. Okay, thanks very much. The next video will be on paper 2, question 2.